they've been missing key players in every single one of those games except the one they won. That's what I'd be playing.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. We're back with you live for another 2-hour show here on Birds 365, a Thursday edition as we inch closer to Week 4 Eagles at Tampa Bay in that mucky weather. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother?
Yeah, it's pretty mucky here, by the way. So maybe the Eagles don't want to go down to Tampa early to acclimate. They could just do it here.
Yeah, it's like hot and mucky this morning. It's
like soup out there. And it's almost October. It's awful. They don't need to go down. This is all the humidity you need. It'll be a little hotter there, but I joked about it. I mean, Vic blew that up. It's kind of silly if you think about it.
You've won me over. Vic won me over. Some of our guests this week who have also shit on it have won me over. Like, why are they going to Tampa?
I don't think it's a big deal either way.
Me neither,
honest, but I do. If it were up to me, and it's not, and I was running the team, like I wouldn't highlight my previous issues there. Like I don't want that in their minds. I don't want to bring that.
Do you think there's some like gamesmanship in terms of with the Bucs where it's like, oh, the Eagles are clearly a little worried about the humidity. Let's run some up tempo. I don't know.
Well, they already know that. I mean, everybody. I mean, they've been playing in that for a long time. They know it's an advantage for them. Just like for years, they couldn't win a game under 32 degrees until they won it here. In the playoffs. I mean, they couldn't win a game. They couldn't win a cold weather game. Same opposite. But I think too many people think of weather games as only cold weather, snow, rain, and heat. Very much could be a weather game. And you saw that last year when they kind of wilted. But even last year, look, they didn't have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson. I mean, they're not going to win when they don't have all three of those guys at one time. Yeah. And if they do win, it's going to be a real struggle. And, maybe they get over at the end. But, that's what I'd be playing up. The Eagles are 1-4. So, it's the only team they have a losing record against in the Nick Sirianni era that they played more than once. So, that's the only team. But they've been healthy for one of those games. And by healthy, I mean nobody's truly healthy. But they've been missing key players in every single one of those games except the one they won. That's what I'd be playing up. Now, unfortunately, they had a bunch of injuries crop up yesterday. That's the NFL for you. But with all due respect to Nolan Smith, who's on injured reserve, he's a good player. I said it in the summer because of what was shaping up at the edge that he's one of the more important players on this team this year. But he's not at the level of AJ or Lane Johnson or he's not there yet. Let's be honest. So you can look at it both ways, but they're certainly more banged up than they've typically been. And that's one of those things. Eventually, we all been saying it. The worm's going to turn. The worm's going to turn. The injuries. There's injuries. You can brag about your sports science and the way you do things all you want. Some guys are going to get hurt.
Yeah,
and that's cropping up this week.
Yeah, it is. No doubt about it, John. Let's talk about it. Nolan Smith sent to injured reserve. Jacorian Bennett sent to injured reserve, and Darius Cooper sent to injured reserve. Obviously, one of those players is a lot more important than the other two. I say that with respect to the other two, but Nolan Smith, as you mentioned, has carved out his role, and the team is really relying on him, John. So how big of a loss is this for this team, and how do you see them kind of managing it moving forward? And before we get there, maybe we should just start with what is the update? What happened to Nolan? I don't think anybody expected this. We woke up yesterday. We didn't hear anything or know anything about Nolan, going to injured reserve. And then, boom, news breaks and Nolan Smith's on the injured reserve. So let's just start with kind of what happened to Nolan and what you know about the injury. And then we'll get into kind of what the Birds should be doing to prevail in the wake of the injury.
Yeah, it's a strained triceps, the same triceps he tore last year in the Super Bowl. So, um, the last thing you want to do is get the re-tear, and then he's going to be out for basically significant time. And even if he would come back, it would be a similar situation to Brandon Graham last year, where he'd be coming back way too soon. He'd be signing a waiver to play in the Super Bowl, things like that. So, um, they're trying to calm it down with rest. And obviously, they'll probably use the bye week to get an extra week. And hopefully he'll return after the bye week. That's the sentiment, but it's going to be a while before he gets back. And yeah, I mean, that was one of the concerns. I mean, and not even from the standpoint of injuries. I always talk about things falling into place, and I think they did a little bit when you get to Zadarius Smith. And now Zadarius Smith is your number one guy, and he's been here for 3 weeks. Jalen Hunt has got to play more, just like he did last year during the stretch run. He's ironic because I think everybody thinks Jalen is this superstar pass rusher waiting to just bloom. He's actually better against the run, which is not a bad thing because he's a good player. And then you have to start about guys stepping up. You have to start talking about guys stepping up. And, they got a bunch of edge rushers. The numbers aren't the problem. But, I mean, they're not even dressing Azeez Ojulari for the first 3 games. Obo, I think he dressed for the first game, but it was sat down for the last 2 games. Patrick Johnson dressed for 2 games, sat last game. Those are the guys you're talking about. And then obviously who's played pretty well until the Rams game was Josh Uche. So the 3 top ones are clear, and that's Smith, Hunt, Uche. And then somebody's got to step up from that second group, and it's got to be Ojulari most likely, I would think, because he's got the biggest upside of the group, but he just didn't have a good summer. It doesn't look like. But sometimes, we said the same thing. Kelee Ringo might have to play. Didn't have a good summer because of other injuries with guys not on injured reserve, but and partially Jacorian Bennett. Some guys, maybe take a step back, reset. Although I talked to Keely, he didn't like that framing of it because, he said we're all in the NFL. We don't need time to reset, but I do think that's a real thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And maybe they play better with another opportunity, but it doesn't look great on paper. But it didn't look great on paper coming into the season, and they've done pretty well. They haven't generated many sacks, but they've gotten quite a bit of pressure. And I think most of it has to do with the interior because Jordan Davis is having a career year. We know that. Jalen Carter's not quite up to his usual standard, but you can see he's getting there. And then Moro Joma's been fine as well. So that's clearly the strength. But, Nolan hasn't been spectacular, but he's just steady. He's just a good player. And that big 4th and 1 stop, he's great. He's a great fit for Vic Fangio's defense because he's comfortable dropping as a flat defender, which not a lot of edge rushers are. He's just a good fit for what Vic wants to do. And it's a big loss that he's not going to be out there.
Yep, it's a massive loss for this team. Week 4, going into week 4 here. The good news is it's not season ending, but the concern for me is, you re-aggravated it from the Super Bowl. And correct me if I'm wrong. He did have surgery on it after the Super Bowl. Yeah. So you have surgery on it after the Super Bowl. Now he's re-aggravated it, and the optimism would be he's back by what? After the bye week? He's missing a minimum of 4. So technically he could be back by the week 8 game, but
yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, it looks more like week 10 in Green Bay after the bye week would be the optimistic view of him returning. And then I don't know. I think it's fair to wonder, are you ever going to be in the clear if you re-aggravated it? You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's the optimistic view, but it's going to be tough to prevail, John, with this edge rushing group. Do you think they go outside the room to add somebody?
Boy, I don't know. I think they want to see what they have. I mean, they have so many numbers. Like I said, the numbers aren't the problem. And it's time, they talked up Aziz when they signed him. It's time, to see if he can do something. Obo, why is he here? Well, this is why he's here. In case you have an injury. So, I mean, they're not the only ones. This happens all over the NFL. Nick Bosa went down with a torn ACL. Now Bryce Huff is a bigger deal in San Francisco. I mean,
you see, Bryce Huff was like one of the highest graded edge rushers through football in the first 3 weeks. Did you see that? PFF put that out?
I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me because, he had success with Robert Saleh. And they play a different style, and that's what he's comfortable with. So sometimes it's just as simple as that. But, now he's got a bigger role. We saw what happened last year with Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, there's big time edge. You got to persevere. That's what the NFL is. And it could be a lot worse. Those guys are done. Hutchinson was done for the season. Nick's done for the season.
Right.
Nolan's going to be back, hopefully, week 10. But, it hurts. He's clearly their best edge defender, and they don't have a lot of great edge defenders, which is atypical of the Eagles.
Yep, no doubt about it. John, real quick, before we get to the great John Stonelis, going to join us here in a little bit on Bird 365, and then we'll have Rob Motti in hour number 2. So a great show planned for everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us, guys. Trying to get to 200 likes today on the live show, so appreciate each and every one of you guys. John, the injuries didn't just end there for the Birds. Nolan Smith, man. A couple guys missed practice yesterday. Zach Bond, Jahad Campbell, Adoree Jackson all did not practice yesterday. What do you know about them? And I think Zach Bond's going to play. I would think so. What do you know about those three guys, and how's it look in terms?
It's very weird. So I don't know if the Eagles are playing the subterfuge game. Like Tampa Bay seems to have them a little spooked by their moving around the schedule and all traveling early, all that stuff, the history. Zach had a big stinking brace on his left leg, but he had his helmet. So, look, when you go to practice as a reporter inside baseball, if you see a guy with a helmet, generally he's going to do something.
Right.
He's going to be listed as limited. So Jahad didn't have his helmet, so we all reported he's not practicing, and he didn't practice. Interestingly, though, he spoke for like 10, 15 minutes in the locker room, where usually if you're injured, you don't speak. You don't have to speak. So he's dealing with a strained triceps as well. He said he's day-to-day, so we'll see how that progresses. Adoree also had his helmet and was stretching, and he didn't practice. So, I always talk about Nick Sirianni loves to play these games and go as quickly as possible, whether that's going to affect Todd Bowles or not. But none of them practiced. Other guys like Vic seemed to intimate that Keeley was going to get a chance, an opportunity, which struck me as Adoree's probably not going to play. Keeley was talking yesterday like he thought he was about to get an opportunity, but they're certainly playing games.
Well, remember what Vic said too on Tuesday. He said Keeley and BLG brought that up yesterday on the show. Keeley's going to get an opportunity at some point. So,
well, I just said that's why I think that may be why Adoree isn't going to play, but he's out there stretching.
Yeah, right.
Lane also looked like he was practicing, and he was limited. He had his helmet, and he said he thinks he's going to be able to play, so hopefully. But he was limited. Tanner McKee's still limited. He's been the emergency quarterback over the past 2 weeks, and Will Shipley was full go, so he should be back. Will should be back, which is bigger than people realize because that'll be big for their third down offense. But so yeah, I mean they were playing a lot of games with. Yeah. But boy, that was a big stinking knee brace that
I saw it
that he had on. And I saw him afterwards. He did not talk, Zach Bond, but he didn't have a brace on. He was walking with his shorts normally.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think about like what's the purpose of tossing a knee brace that size on and still being, I don't know, in a good position to play. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to just toss it. Something to put like a sleeve on or something if you're sore there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Jihad had a compression sleeve on his
right. Those make sense
on his right leg, and had nothing. His injury had nothing to do with the right leg. He's got a triceps, so yeah, a lot of weird stuff going on. And by the way, because they place guys on injured reserve, they don't have to say what their injuries are. So Nolan didn't leave his game. We had to confirm that in other ways that it's the triceps. Jakorian was not in the locker room, so we still don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know if anybody got it. I haven't seen it if they have. And Cooper did have a shoulder issue in the game, so we knew it was the shoulder from that perspective. And all are non-surgical injuries at least, so that's a positive.
Yeah, good stuff there. John Lane, you think Lane's going to play? I know he was limited yesterday, which is a good sign. I always get a little nervous when you talk about neck injuries, but I guess the assumption is Lane will play if he was limited yesterday, right?
Yeah, well, he said he's going to play, so I'm leaning on Lane. Again, he's not a doctor, but right. I think he's going to certainly try to play.
Yeah, good stuff there. Appreciate everybody for being here this morning. That's the injury updates as it stands today. John, one final note. Before we get to Johnny Stolness, Jalen Hurts spoke yesterday. Did you take anything away from him? He is kind of a like Nick Sirianni in his own right, where he just can sometimes just give you a little bit of word salad. But what'd you think of what Jalen Hurts had to say yesterday? Anything stick out to you?
Well, I think it was interesting because AJ spoke too, and unfortunately, I was at Jalen's press conference while AJ was talking in the locker room, but Ed was there. I wish I was at AJ's.
Yeah, right.
What I would say about those two is that one reverted to form and one doubled down.
Yep. AJ doubled down, Jalen reverted, right?
Yeah. So make of it what you will, I guess. But AJ was not backing down, man. He was not backing down.
So you say make of it what you will. How about what Johnny Mack made of it? What do you make of it? That means that means.
Well, I mean, clearly, I've said it for a long time, dating back to last season. Obviously, both Jalen and AJ want to throw the football more. I mean, to me, people that argue that are just silly.
Right.
Obviously, they want to. So the debate really is the best way to win football games. And the coaching staff thinks the best way to win football games is to not turn the football over. They don't turn the football over. They don't have an interception in 3 games now. Now they did have the fumble, and that's a miss block, miss blitz pickup. That stuff's going to happen. They haven't thrown an interception. Why is partially they haven't thrown the interception? Because they don't take a lot of chances. I mean, it's not rocket science. And they win every game. So the coaching staff is emboldened. They're like, well, I mean, what's the goal here? So, I mean, and I try to say this as clearly as possible. Obviously, it doesn't resonate. Do I think they're too conservative? Yes. Do they think they're too conservative? No. Right. Does AJ think they're too conservative? Yes. Does Jalen think they're too conservative? Believe it or not, yes. But they win football games.
Yeah, and I think that's what keeps winning Jalen back to the old guard is like, oh, well, we're 19-1.
Well, I don't think they're winning him. I think he just has the.
Well, I think he truly cares about winning more than anything. So, he buys into it.
Well, plus he's also recognized the enormity of his position, which is about more than himself, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Joe Whitt brings up a good point. Might have to come out throwing with a compromised defense. You're right. You got some banged up injuries on that defense.
Never think Vic's not going to get it done on defense. But
that's true. But he's not.
They're banged up too. Remember, they're probably more banged up than the Eagles.
Yeah, but they've been prevailing for 3 weeks, banged up. The Eagles. This is going to be one of the first. Well, they've still had some injuries.